Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to my humble domain. I'm glad to have you with me on this Saturday evening. There's a lot actually going on low-key in the world of sports. We're going to dabble in and out of a bunch of it. Now, obviously, with the NFL season not going on, I'm not going to really address much of what the teams have going on right now, mostly because free agency is approaching, and the more important thing to focus on right now is the scouting combine. So for those of you who watch pro football, right now is going to be one of those analytical times for you. You're going to put your thinking cap on, you're going to put your analyzing cap on, and you're going to put yourself in your team's shoes and pay attention to what you see here going on right now. There's a lot to pick up on. Today they're doing the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, I believe it was. We've already seen some very interesting and yet promising material from a lot of these guys. Something for us to be excited about come draft time, because one of the things that I feel like we don't really talk about is the draft process and what it's like for those guys. So let's go ahead and take a few moments to go over that. So if you've played football before, you guys know how physically enduring and strenuous this game is, right? The art of football, if you will. There's a lot that goes into it, both mentally and physically. It is a more mental game than physical game. A lot of people seem not to understand that. It's similar to the United States military, right? And the reason why that I say that is because there's a level of discipline that you have to have in order to be successful, first and foremost. The second thing here is that the training that you're going through is kind of breaking you down to build you back up in the image of a football player. When you're a football player, you got to have hand-eye coordination, you got to be able to read plays, you got to be able to follow instructions, you got to be able to adjust, right? These are all very similar facets in multi-talented personnel that you can find, which is why a lot of these guys also play a secondary sport or have a hobby outside of just football. These men are not usually just one-dimensional. So that's part of what makes this whole process pretty fun, pretty cool to pay attention to. If you haven't, now would be a great time for you to jump in and go have a look at what these players are offering right now. Like I said, wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs are on showcase for today. The skill positions, the positions where the majority of your offense is coming from, and also the positions that really help outline the superstar statistic that we see in the NFL, such as Mike Evans, who had a pretty good combine himself, and more realistically than that, has put on a showcase on what the best receiver post the 2010s looks like. I mean, let's just be 100% honest right now. If you are wanting to be a receiver in the NFL, there's a lot more receivers to not follow other than this guy, right? So Mike Evans, he's been able to do 10 1,000 yard seasons to start his NFL career, starting with his rookie season. Unheard of, just absolutely marvelous what he's been able to do here in Tampa Bay. And this is a guy who, for the record, if you guys didn't know, said that he wanted to try his hat in free agency, and he's absolutely able to do that. I think he really just wants to look around and see what other teams are going to do. If I had to give you guys an assumption as to how this would go down, Mike is probably going to have 4 or 5 teams seriously offer him some dough, and what will happen is he'll probably call Tampa up. If not, call Tampa will be monitoring. I know Jason Light will be monitoring. And the Buccaneers will just offer the same thing, okay, as the highest offer that he receives. And it's simple. That you do that strategy when there's mutual interest for the party to stay, and when you know that you can lock him up for that. So let's say he hears a 6-year, $25 million deal, and that's the best deal he hears. Tampa Bay will just give him that outright. So, that's something else for you guys to consider. I know usually when you hear, oh, I want to dabble in free agency, that's not a good thing. This is going to be one of those times where I truly believe that dabbling in free agency just means setting the curb to no. And obviously other teams have to do it, right? Because you have to assume that, hey, listen, if these teams are going to make offers, okay, we should be able to at least match that offer, right? And of course, if nothing comes close to that 6-year, $25 million deal that I believe is what he's looking for, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Tampa Bay will be in the clear to continue to keep him. And, that will just be a match made in heaven, as it's been this entire time. We love Mike down here. Jason Light already said that he wants him to retire as a Buck. So do we here in the state of Tampa Bay. We believe that he is quite possibly the single greatest draft choice this franchise has ever committed to. And he's shown it over the last decade. So we love you, Mike. We can't wait for you to re-sign on that dotted line. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's going to come second. And for those of you who are wondering about the franchise tag, if it would be Tristan Wirfs or Antoine Winfield Jr., either one of those options are really good options. I would say you probably go Antoine Winfield Jr. right now, just because, well, in all honesty, I take that back. You could really say either or. Now that I think about it, the Tristan Wirfs franchise tag might be better because Tristan is probably going to make more money. When you look at the two positions, you realize that no matter how well a safety plays, he's not getting the kind of money that, say, Mike Evans will get. So, excuse me there. That's just something to take in consideration. Not saying that he doesn't deserve it. He absolutely does deserve it. Let's just be practical and really understand, where teams come from as far as how they're going to spread their money out, right? And because of that, you realize, hey, the quarterbacks are always going to make the most money. After that, you're going to have your skill positions, and you're going to have your superstars, and then you're going to go and visit both lines and kind of take it from there. There's those payment discrepancies, if you will, per your position. So that's something else to take in consideration. But Tampa Bay will absolutely be signing Mike Evans. I don't see us letting him go, especially after the history these two together have collectively. What's up, Adam, Taryn? Good to see you guys. I appreciate you guys being out here on the show, man. It's a great time right now to be a fan. Not just for Tampa Bay, but for football in general. Now, here's the deal. I will admit that the league being rigged and, the whole script and all that thing, it's a bit of a downer, right? Like, it sucks. This is not exactly what we want it to be, but I'll tell you what, it's still pretty good. It's still entertaining, to say the least. And I think this part right now is the part that becomes the most entertaining, which is going to be post the combine, right? So obviously with free agency coming up, we already talked about Mike Evans, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Tristan Wirfs. Of course, Baker is, if Mike is getting re-signed, so is Baker. Those two kind of go together. As Ricky Parcel, the former Gator, runs his 40-yard dash, he runs his 4.4s. For the record, guys, too, that's a guy that y'all are going to want to pay attention to. I'll talk about him again in a moment. But back to the free agency bit. This free agency is going to be one of the most lively free agencies we've had in quite a while. I mean, we have some absolute studs who are going to be available here and that are going to want to get away from specific teams. The Patriots are going to lose some guys. The Jaguars are going to lose some guys. Just to name a couple of teams that have some pieces that would be phenomenal in other areas. Washington is going to be a team that's going to look into free agency again to try to find some help, as well as Chicago. Chicago should be moving on from Justin Fields. I think he's going to Atlanta. So that's going to be basically the point that I'm getting is there's going to be a lot of volume and activity this free agency circuit that we're about to experience, and you guys should get ready because your team may be one of those teams that's going to make a splash. Obviously, I believe Tampa Bay is going to be one of those teams. Again, we have the most cap space in the NFC South, 1, and 2, we just freed up more cap space. If I remember correctly, Shaq Barrett's contract was for $19 million a year. He was guaranteed, I believe, 4, which means that we were able to free up 15. When you combine that with the 41, almost 42 that we already had, that extends our reach exponentially. Of course, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, Shaq Barrett was released by Tampa Bay. This move was obvious move coming because of where we were at with contracts, not because we don't want Shaq Barrett. Make no mistake about it, Shaq Barrett may very well re-sign with Tampa Bay. There's a lot of continuity he has here, one, and two, this defensive line is actually starting to really come together, and it would be great to continue to have a veteran piece like Shaq Barrett. I could see him signing a 2-year 14 mil contract, which I think would be absolutely phenomenal for both. I know Shaq is getting to the latter part of his career, and he's going to be in a position where he's going to be looking at retirement soon, much like Lavonte David. Lavonte David, another outstanding linebacker for Tampa Bay, perhaps the greatest linebacker since Derrick Brooks was here. He will most likely re-sign with Tampa Bay on a 1-year contract, and I think both Lavonte and Tampa Bay are very happy to continue this as long as Lavonte wants to play. Played at an extremely high level again last year. There's no hints of drop-off or need for replacement. So I say Tampa Bay re-sign the stud one more time to linebacker out of Nebraska. Been here, longest tenured Buccaneer. I think that this is an absolute great area for both the players and for Tampa Bay to be in as a franchise. We were able to weather the loss of Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield came in and played phenomenal. The team rallied around him and showed what good teamwork can do. This season by no means was an easy season. It was extremely bumpy. But it's a season that I'm extremely proud in. I'm very happy with the way this team closed out the season and entered the playoffs. And obviously, if the league wasn't rigged, Tampa Bay had Detroit on the ropes. And if you watch that game, you realize the Buccaneers really had that game won. And obviously, there's just a lot of help from the guys in the zebra column. And unfortunately, it's hard to beat those guys, right? So let's just be honest about what happened there. Let's see here. There might be a good amount of players that are studs on teams, but they could get released due to salary cap. Yeah, and that's the part that's crazy, and that's why I said I feel like it's such a because we haven't even seen the end of people and players being released. And I mean people, I also mean coaches, right? Because obviously a lot of coaching issues were already fixed earlier in this year once the season ended. But we're also going to see an area where a lot of these coaches who are going to start to get like a national spotlight are going to be coaches who coached some of these players that are coming out in the draft, right? So as a result, it may not be immediate, but we're also going to see start to see this is the beginning of where terminations and coaching actually start, especially when you look at the fact that now we're headed into the next season. As soon as the combine starts, the Super Bowl and all that it's over with. Unless you're the team that won the Super Bowl, all 31 of the other teams are focused on the draft. Okay, the Chiefs, if I remember correctly, released Montez Valdez-Scantling. That means you're going to be in the market for another receiver. So even the Chiefs have no choice but to pay attention to what's going on today in the draft. And I think that that's a great point, Taryn. I think that it's absolutely incredible the amount of personnel that we will see become, free agents throughout pretty much just throughout this entire process. And of course there are going to be players who are also going to want to test the market as well, and that's something else to consider, because you don't want to have a disgruntled player on your team and where they're sitting out from training camp and all these different things where you're sitting there like this guy could be a liability. Time is also moving faster now than ever before, guys. I'm pretty sure you all can agree with me. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it seemed like time to move so much slower than it does now. And before you know it, we'll be past springtime, and baseball will be in the middle of its season, and we'll be watching preseason football, guys. Before you know it, before you freaking know it. I mean, think about it. We're already in March. Like, where did January, February go? Anyhow, just speaking to that point, great point though. Taryn, I can't wait to see who else becomes free agent. I just hope and pray that Tampa Bay does a good job retaining their 5 pieces that matter most. Of course, Devin White, guys. For those of you who are wondering about Devin, there's not a strong chance that he'll be back with Tampa Bay. Last year's off the field interviews kind of messed that relationship up a little bit, and then followed by the performance from the linebacker. At one point in time, he actually didn't start, and he was subbed in position for linebacker KJ Britt, who actually played phenomenally during his starts. So there's a strong chance that Tampa Bay may let Devin White find what he's looking for in free agency. But as for the other names, as I mentioned before, expect them all to be re-signed with Tampa Bay. And then also expect Tampa Bay to make, I would say, 2 or 3 splashes in free agency as well. There are some cornerbacks that Tampa Bay is going to need to look at, as well as a few offensive and defensive linemen. Obviously, Chris Jones is going to be one of those people. I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to sign him, but you got to look at a guy at his caliber, obviously. And like I said, a bunch of other names to pay attention to. But guys, that's what's going on there with the NFL. Right now, again, like I said, not going to focus on any one team. Right now, we're going to focus on the combine and free agency. And for the record, there's a few guys that I think each team should pay attention to, but chief among them, watch out for Tampa Bay looking into Blake Corum. The guy's an absolute stud, fresh off a national championship victory with Michigan. Congratulations again, Michigan. And just so pay attention to that. I think for those of you who paid attention to the ground game last year for Tampa Bay, it was absolutely terrible. We were not able to run the ball. But in the second half of the season, we were able to manipulate the rotation of defensive linemen and linebackers that we played against by getting the ball to Rachaad White out of the backfield, and he ended up being a top 5 back out of the backfield by the end of the season. Blake Corum plus 2 better offensive linemen could absolutely equal in a devastating ground air attack that has sorely been missing here in Tampa Bay since the early Leonard Fournette days, basically the first 2 years that Leonard played for us. And with Tom Brady under center, we're going to try to get back to that. I think if we can provide Baker with a solid line and another running back that can go out there and get things done while Rachaad White is recovering, we'll find ourselves in the top half, if not the top 10 of the NFL offensive stats as far as area of effectiveness may be concerned between quarterback play, wide receiver play, and running back play. Obviously, the offensive line is jacked up, but we're going to figure that out this offseason. We have to. We have no choice. Obviously, for Jacksonville, they may be looking at a quarterback. I understand that if they want to continue moving forward with Trevor Lawrence, but I'll also be the first one to say that Trevor had a terrible year last year. Okay, and if they want to move on from him, it would make perfect sense to do so. This young man, Xavier Worthy, here at the NFL Combine has run his 40 guys at a 4.25 and a 4.22. Absolutely disgusting. Somebody's going to be very happy that they picked this guy up with that kind of speed. Wow, that's fast. So here we go. Any chance Antoine Winfield Jr. hits free agency? Absolutely not. Let's go ahead and unpack this real quick. That is a wonderful question, Adam. And Dad, shout out to you. I see you there as well. Hey, Dad, be safe getting home. I'll talk to you a little bit later on tonight. But yes, so about Antoine Winfield Jr. hitting free agency. The likelihood of that happening has to be less than 5%, and the reason is very, very, very simple. This was a man who is still under his rookie contract, who has developed a relationship, and not just a relationship, but a status as the best safety in the NFL. All right, let's just go ahead and deal with this as it is. That man was robbed of Defensive Player of the Year. And I get it. There's a lot of great defensive players out there. Absolutely. I agree. Myles Garrett is probably the best player on the best defense. But we're missing the point here. He's also on the best defense. It's not like he's LeBron James and this is 2007, or my bad, 2008. 2007. And he's carrying a bunch of people who we don't know the names of, okay? I believe that Antoine Winfield Jr., there is no chance that he goes elsewhere. And like I said, in all honesty, the fundamental concept that Tampa Bay is going to be dealing with is signing Baker and Mike long term. And the reason why you do that is because, obviously, we already have Godwin. We're going to go back and we're going to re-sign him next year. There's no way around that as well. He's not going anywhere either, okay, until they're ready to retire. These guys are guys that we've drafted. Besides Baker, these are guys that we've drafted, and that means a lot to Tampa Bay. You go back and you look at the history of Tampa Bay drafting players, especially those who made it a point to stay with the franchise. Look at Rondé Barber. Look at Derek Brooks. Look at, what was his name before he retired? Mike Allstott. Like, you look at a lot of these corner pieces that Tampa Bay has had, and with the marriages that they have had, especially when they make it past that 5-year mark, they tend to stay with Tampa Bay. That's something that is, I think, rooted in the Tampa Bay franchise and also us as a people. I think that the Buccaneers organization realizes and they know that Tampa Bay would never forgive them for losing players like Mike Evans, like Antoine Winfield. That's why over the years, some of the players that we've seen leave were players who didn't hold the starting position as much as these guys have over the years. So in all honesty, there is pretty much a 0% chance that either Tristan or Antoine Winfield goes to free agency, and that's just because I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay is going to be prepared to give them whatever they want, whether it's this year or next year. Who's going to get franchise tag? Again, the better choice is probably Tristan Wirfs, just because he would make more money, which would give you the ability to spend more money on him next year after you have your quarterback 1 and your wide receiver 1 locked up, who by far are going to be your most expensive pieces to keep. So that would be the logical way to handle it. Of course, they could go out of their way and attempt to try to sign everybody and then franchise tag somebody else. The problem with that is we're talking about perhaps the 4 or 5 best players overall on this team, okay? Besides Rachaad White and Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield Jr., Baker Mayfield, and Mike Evans are without the shadow of a doubt the 4 priorities, with an honorable mention to Lavonte David, of course. And Dad, you said that the most likely Bucks casualties will be David, White, and Barrett. So, but yeah, Barrett's already gone, but he's open to re-signing with Tampa Bay under the right, for the right reasons. I said earlier, Dad, I don't know if you caught this, but I said that I could see him signing a 2-year, 14-15 mil kind of contract. It could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, but I think that's a great, safe contract for both parties, especially with Shaq Barrett starting to reach the latter part of his career. I think he should be able to go out on his own terms, and if he wants to win a Super Bowl on the team that he started with and also the team that he broke the sack record for, franchise speaking, it would be great for him. And of course, I know Tampa Bay would love to continue to develop this ring of honor that we have. I think people now have to look at this franchise and listen to what I'm about to say, people. I think people really need to look at the Tampa Bay franchise and realize that we are a special franchise, and we weren't just a one-and-done franchise. We have a legitimate history now behind us, and not just because of the signing of Tom Brady at the time, but also because of the history that we have had with these tremendous defense and coaches, whether you look at John Gruden, Monty Kiffin, as you guys know, oh God, what's his name? The head coach for the Steelers was the defensive backs coach for Tampa Bay during our first Super Bowl. There's so much heritage here, and I think that it's going to follow this team for a long time. And I think that Tampa Bay should be definitely respected around the league for what they've been able to do, both coaching-wise and drafting-wise. Now, that's my belief there for football, guys. Let's go ahead and get into our first break of the evening. When we get back, we'll jump into the NBA. We'll check out some college basketball, talk about the beginning of spring training for our beloved Rays. We'll cover the NHL, and then we'll wrap it up with some food for thought. All right, guys? Thank you for having it locked here. Keep it locked here. Don't touch that dial, and we'll be back in exactly 2 minutes, you guys. My name is Corey Pools, your host, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Yes, sir, and just like that, we're back with this episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And Dad, you kind of talked about it before I could get there, but you were right on the money, my old man. USF is just on a tear right now, and I can't wait to get to that point. We'll talk about that in a few moments, but let me go ahead and cover what is going on in the NBA right now, guys. And Dad, you're going to want to hear this. You're going to like this part because your beloved Magic have finally moved past the Miami Heat in the standings. They are now currently 6th in the East. They are on an absolute tear as well. Shout out to Orlando Magic basketball. These guys are playing at such a high level right now. Listen, a year ago at this time, I was saying that the Magic would require 2 more years before... Y'all can go back and listen to the episode, okay? I actually said it a few times. I thought that the Magic were about 2 years away from playing the way that they're playing right now. Make no mistake about it. The Orlando Magic is a legit threat to the NBA in the East. They're only getting better, and they're only playing better as a team. I am absolutely 100% impressed with how this team has been performing. And as a matter of fact, guys, let's just go on and get into it. Yes, sir. Hey, Ralph, how you doing, bro? Good to see you, bro. Yes, sir. We are here. We are still pretty at the beginning of everything, so you're good to go, bro. You're not missing anything, my man. But as far as the Orlando Magic are concerned, we're going to talk about them first instead of the Heat because, like I said, right now they are playing tremendous basketball. I'm very impressed with the way this young team is coalescing and gelling together and performing at such a high level. So the Orlando Magic rocking a 34-26 record, a full game, my apologies, ahead of the Heat, who previously were ahead of them due to tiebreaker. They will be playing the Pistons tomorrow night, so you can go ahead and put that 35-26. I don't want to jinx them, but the Pistons are playing terrible basketball right now. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we've ever seen a worse Pistons team in the history of basketball. Currently rocking a 9-50 record. I don't want to talk about percentages. I'll just tell you that game is going to be played tomorrow at 6 p.m. And if everything checks out, the Magic should now be 35-26 by this time tomorrow. I don't say not by this time, but starting this time tomorrow. The next game after that is going to be against the Hornets. Slightly harder game. The Hornets rocking a 15-45 record. Both of these teams, 2 of the worst teams in the NBA at the moment, unfortunately. I don't know if it's because Mike owns the team and he's gambling too much, or if it's something else. They're not drafting well. I don't know. I think they've drafted a few players that were pretty decent in the last 10 years, but I can't tell you any, it's not like they've had like a, Victor Wembanyama or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely weird to watch this franchise struggle as much as it has struggled over the last 20-25 years. And I'm only saying that from the stand because I personally don't watch them play basketball, but anytime I see them play the Magic, or they're playing the Lakers, or they're playing the Cavs, or Miami, like the teams that I do watch play basketball, it's like I could just turn the game off because they don't play basketball. They do something, but it's not basketball, okay? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But anyhow, the Magic will be playing that game against the Hornets Tuesday, March 5th at 7 p.m. Guys, remember Tuesday, March 5th, all right? 3 days away, okay? Because there's a lot. And when I mean a lot, you're going to get sick and tired of me saying Tuesday, March 5th. Like, you're going to get tired of it, okay? But that is the first game for you guys to check out if you want to see this young Orlando Magic team play basketball. Again, they're playing extremely well. It's not just the individuals playing well. It's actually more so teamwork. They've become so much better in transition. Defensively speaking, they're a better team than they get credit for. And offensively, they know how to get around the ball and keep the ball moving until they find the shot. I wouldn't say this team is one of those teams that's just going to pull up on you and start dunking on you like the 13 Clippers or something like that. But this is definitely one of those teams that the upside and the potential that they have is starting to shatter a ceiling that we thought was there, but clearly no longer is, right? So shout out to the Magic again for what they're able to do. 4-1 in the last 5 games, and they passed the Heat, as I mentioned earlier. All I can say is keep it up, boys. That's all I can say. Keep it up. I know the playoffs are, we still got a little bit to go before we get to the playoffs, but I feel like that this Magic team is a lock for the playoffs, and I can't wait to see how they perform. Again, it would be so cool to see this Orlando Magic and Miami Heat team both make the playoffs. The only time that's ever happened between these two franchises was in 1997. So That would be absolutely amazing. Speaking of the Miami Heat, let's go ahead and talk about them. They're currently one game behind the Magic. 33-26 be the record that they rock. They're playing the Jazz with 4 minutes left in the first. The last time I saw it, that is, if anybody wants to put that score into the chat, I will go ahead and say it on air. But the last time that I did see it, the Heat had a 3-point lead over over the Jazz. With 4 minutes to go in the first quarter, no doubt this game should be reaching its crescendo, and we can go ahead and log that one into the book and see if this team is going to tie the Magic or if they are going to be a game behind the Magic. And if anybody could put that score into the chat, I'd greatly appreciate that. They're also 4-1 in the last 5. However, it's not a convincing 4-1, right? So the Miami Heat are playing good basketball, but they're starting to struggle against the top tier teams again. It's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, does this team have the reserves that it had last year to be able to make a deep season push into the final round of the playoffs or the NBA Finals, for that matter? It's going to be questionable. We're going to have to see as we get closer, if this Miami Heat team is going to be for real. Again, Eric Spoelstra, one of my favorite coaches. I pretty much say that every week. But if anybody could do it, he can. So I'm never going to count the Heat out. But the Magic seem to be playing slightly better basketball at the moment. Okay, so that's just what the eye is catching, if you will. Now then, college basketball. Now, Dad talked about USF first. Let's go ahead and talk about USF first. They are playing unprecedented basketball in the center of the city right now. USF is rocking a 21-5 record, best start in franchise history. They're currently ranked 25th, should probably be higher. And they did beat Charlotte today. The score of that game, as Dad mentioned, was 76-61. Claims their first regular season title and 14 in a row. Shout out to USF. The Bulls are absolutely on fire. No Matador, and I have to be honest with you, it's impressive. It's beyond impressive. It's unprecedented right now. For those of you who are wondering, the USF Bulls are not a Power 5 team. They are out in the Sun Belt, USF, I believe it is. But they play right in the heart in the northeastern part of Florida. They are a very young team, but a very skilled team, and a team that has clearly no problem winning when it matters most. Like I said, 14 in a row. I believe that's their longest win streak in franchise history, and also the best record to start their season in franchise history. Congratulations, USF. We are so proud of you guys, especially now that you can lay claim to your first title, guys. Now, the next game they're going to play is going to be against Tulane. Tulane's rocking a 13-15 record. They should be able to get this game. Tuesday, March 5th, like I said, you're going to get tired of hearing March 5th, so be prepared for that. Is going to be the score, not the score, but the time for that game at 7 p.m. Be prepared for that. I'm going to try and watch it if I can. I don't have anything to watch on Tuesday outside of NXT. For those of you who watch pro wrestling, you know what I'm talking about. But I should be able to go back and forth between that and this game, so I should be checking out that USF game. Again, congratulations to the Bulls. First regular season title. You guys deserve it. So proud of you. Keep up the good work, and let's see you guys in the big dance. Maybe you guys will be the Cinderella story of this year. Along with another team we're going to talk about in a moment. But, guys, I realized something. I forgot to mention something to you guys earlier about the Miami Heat. The next game that they would play would be against the Pistons, and I feel like I kind of skipped over that because, of course, the Magic are playing the Pistons tonight. So that was something that I apologize for missing. They're going to be playing the Pistons Tuesday, March 5th at 7:30 p.m. So if you guys are catching the drift, we have the Magic game, which is at 7 p.m. against the Hornets. You're going to have the Pistons game, which is at 7:30 also on Tuesday. So you got 30 minutes away from each other, those two games starting. And then, of course, if you're going to be watching USF basketball, their game is also March 5th, Tuesday, 7 p.m. So be prepared for that, guys. There's going to be a ton of athletics going on and stuff to pay attention to on Tuesday. And like I said, this won't be the last time you hear Tuesday at such and such, So let's see here. Breaking news. Jazz 76, Heat 72. Third quarter, 6:17 left. Okay, gotcha. So that is the score that I was asking for a little bit earlier, guys. Thank you, Dad. Shout out to you for putting that in there. 76-72, 6 minutes to go. It's gonna get sticky because if they lose to the Jazz here, they're gonna now be a game and a half behind the Magic, and that's not gonna That's not going to be good. Not going to be good at all. So, yeah, anyhow, back to the college basketball rankings. Again, I do apologize for being late on that, but here we go moving forward. So, again, that's what's going on there for USF. Let's move on to the Gators. The Gators, the other ranked team out of Florida right now, Power 5 ranking. They're 24th. They lost to South Carolina. Here's the deal, guys, okay? I call things the way I see them, okay? It's not biased. It's not any of that. When I'm telling you, I was watching that game, and I had to turn it off because the referees were just calling every foul in the book. Listen, I understand we're in college and these teams aren't the most disciplined teams. And even at the highest level of college basketball, teams still commit, and I'm using air quotations as I say this, but stupid fouls, right? They were just calling stuff that when South Carolina shot the ball, okay? Boom, post up at the three-point line, shoot the ball, no contact, we're going to call a foul anyway. Like, that was the kind of, ball we were seeing. The Gators were up at one point by 8 points. Playing tremendously solid basketball, and then before you know it, out of nowhere, they get a couple of turnovers, and the transition, the Gators are hot and cold in transition this year, and that's something I feel like they've been living and dying off of. Right now, they died off of it, but the refs were just calling everything. If a shot went up and it didn't go in, they were calling a foul. If it did go in, then boom, they kind of let it go. And after watching that for a good 7 minutes, I was like, all right, I'm turning this game off. I'm going to go watch the Combine because if I want to see my team get screwed, I just go back and watch that Buccaneers-Lions game, okay? So, in any case, though, they did lose that ball game. It was a 6-point game. It was an 8-point swing at one point. USF was the higher-ranked team, which makes sense. That's the reason why. And they were playing at South Carolina, so they had a lot of home cooking, a lot of help. Not to be sold short, they're a good team, of course, and I'm not saying that they're not a good team, but pound for pound, if you need the Zebras to help you win the game, I'm not going to say you have a long path in front of you to success. I'm just going to say that you had help, right? So, Gators, they dropped down to 20-9 now, again, ranked 24th. This isn't going to hurt them as bad, but if they lose back-to-back games, which the next game against Alabama ranked 14, that could be potentially a huge problem for them. The Gators are going to have to pay attention to these final two games that they play. They're 2-2 in the last 4, and they should be 4-0, and that's the part that's stressing me out. I think that the Gators are a lot better than what these games against South Carolina, the first game against Kentucky, and the first game against Alabama have shown. I think these were games that the Gators should have won, and they were not able to pull it out, whether it be due to the Zebras or due to their lack of play in transition, because, again, that's been their biggest issue besides living and dying at the three-point line. Because when they're living at it, they're unbeatable. When they're dying at it, they're super beatable, right? And that's something else that you got to be careful with. You don't want to turn into the Golden State Warriors if you're not Golden State. All right, so Gators, something else to pay attention to. Again, that next game is going to be against Alabama, ranked 14 Alabama, that is, with a 20-8 record, so a game ahead of the Gators as far as ranking is concerned. And guess when that game is coming to you? Just take a guess, guys. Just take a guess. That's right, Tuesday, March 5th, 9 p.m. Okay, so again, a lot of basketball to be played there on Tuesday. Get ready for that, guys. Next two teams we're going to talk about are two teams that we thought would play better this year, but clearly are not playing better this year. Starting off with FSU, the Noles. Well, they lost to Georgia Tech 85-76, okay? So obviously they're not dancing, they're not elite, and they're not final either for that matter, okay? So FSU, guys, let's get a big mirror, okay? And let's look into it and see what it is that we need to do. Okay, y'all need to do, because I'm not a Nole. I'm not. I respect the Noles. I'm not a Nole. But you guys are going to need to look into that mirror and get like Michael Jackson and make some changes, okay? So, I mean, that's just how that goes, guys. 15-14 record, terrible. All right, just terrible. Okay, guys, got to play better basketball, got to recruit better, got to coach better, got to start somewhere, and that's what's important here. Okay, I think that between them and Miami's probably the slightly better team, but you can't tell because both their records are the same. Okay, so anyhow, losing to Georgia Tech puts them again at that 15-14 record. Their next game is going to be a bit. Excuse me, guys, I cannot English right now. It's going to be against Pittsburgh, all right? Now, Pittsburgh is rocking an 18-10 record. They're a much better team and a team that has a shot to actually do something as we get ready to get closer to this dance here. Here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. Pittsburgh is by no means a great team, but they're a team with a better record, okay, than the Noles. So with the Noles going to town there, if they're going to want to end their season positively, they're going to have to find a W here. If Pittsburgh wants to continue their season, they're going to have to find a W here. That game, take a guess. Take another guess, right? Take a wild guess, right? Yeah. Tuesday, March 5th, 9 p.m. Okay. All the teams in Florida are playing basketball on Tuesday, March 5th. Okay, guys? That's the moral of the story here, all right? That is the continuation of the longest story of all time. 2-2 in the last 4. The record over the last 4 games, and I have to admit, it's not a convincing 2-2. I think their best win there was against Clemson. Clemson ain't doing much this year either. I mean, they were, but they're not right now. Okay, so that's Clemson's better team, though. I think they're a better team than FSU, so that's a quality win for them. But again, if they want to end their season on a high note, gonna have to get this dub against Pittsburgh. The Canes in a similar situation. They play Boston College Wednesday, March 7th. Wednesday, March 6th, my apologies, at 7 p.m. Boston College rocking a 15-13 record. So all these teams have similar records in the ACC. I don't know what's going on there. I think they're just all sitting around a campfire, like just poking each other at this point, because these teams, they're not playing as well as they could and as well as we expected them to play when the season started. Now, the following game is going to be against FSU. If these two teams both have the same record, I guess they're going to be playing for bragging rights in the ACC about who has a slightly better record. But they're going to be each other's last opponent in the regular season before we get to this dance. And that game's going to come to you as Saturday, March 9th at 4 p.m. If you guys want to see two crappy Florida teams beat the heck out of each other, that's going to be the game to watch, in my opinion, guys. They have no reason to not throw the kitchen sink and everything else at each other. So it could be an entertaining game, but make no mistake about it, these are two of the worst teams here in Florida right now as we speak. In basketball language, that is. So, congratulations to USF, though, again, on their title. And Gators, you guys are going to have to play hard into the dance, and you're going to have to play better against top-tier opponents. Play like you guys did against Kentucky in the second game, you'll find success. If you don't, in for a very short dance, if you get where I'm going with that, guys. Let's go ahead and get to our second break of the evening. When we get back, we'll go into the MLB, talk about what's going on in spring baseball, and then we'll cover the NHL, and we'll wrap it up from there. All right, guys, thank you again for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Yes, sir, and Dad, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say our very own Larry Legend here in the building. Larry B, what's up, my friend? Good to see you, and yes, sir, we have to be better, Dad. You make a great point there on the road for the Gators. For those of you who were reading the chat, 3-6 on the road for the Gators be the Achilles heel. And of course, again, like I said, with this last game, I was watching it. It was they should have won that game. And of course, the guys in the zebra costumes got involved, and it gets a little rough at that point. Obviously, it's still winnable, but it still gets a little rough. But in any case, welcome back here to Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Poole, your host, and as always, is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that is sports. Now, here's the thing, okay? College basketball has, the two phases that it has. So, if you do well in phase 1, you make to phase 2. If you get to phase 2, things get a little shaky. This isn't like a regular playoff schematic where you, aside from football, you're going to have a series, right? Like you have baseball as the World Series. NBA has the finals, right? And there's so many games being played. Hockey, of course, has a series as well. But most sports outside of football actually have a series. In this second phase for college basketball, it's not a series. You just got to continue to win. Win. Al, what's his name that used to own the Raiders? What do you say? Just win, baby. Like, that's pretty much the idea. It doesn't matter if it's clean, ugly, help, no help, whatever. You got to win, right? So, of course, that means you're going to have to be good on the road because you're just not going to get every game at home, okay? This is not the 2007 New England Patriots, all right? So, you got to win on the road. I agree. That is a great point, Dad. Now then, moving on from college basketball, let's talk about these, not college, but baseball that we have. College baseball is also going on for those of you who didn't know. If you've been watching the Gators, they've been slugging it. But, I mean, what do you expect? This team has been absolutely phenomenal. Yes, Al Davis. Good job right there. Yes, Al Davis. Rest in peace to him. But if you've been watching anything in college baseball, you know that the Gators have actually made to back-to-back College World Series, and they've done very well. They won the College World Series 2 years ago, and then they lost to LSU this past year in an absolute just heavyweight showdown. I want to make something very clear. If you watch college baseball, there's nothing more top tier than watching what we saw the last 2 years between Florida and LSU. Some of the absolute best baseball I've watched my entire life, personally speaking. I also happen to love, the Gators are my favorite team, and out west I actually absolutely adore LSU. I've always adored LSU. And so it was a treasure for me to be able to watch both of these World Series. Unfortunately, the Gators were not able to pull it out this past year, but the year before they were. Who knows? We may be headed to a third Florida versus LSU College World Series. But to bring it back around town to our beloved Rays, okay? Spring training has started, which is the good news. The bad news is, aside from winning 3 in a row, the Rays have been on the losing end of all the games. Now, it is just spring training. Here's the problem. Spring training does set the tone for the regular season. It's inevitable, okay? It's just like preseason football. In preseason football, we see some guys really come to life. And some of those guys are able to legitimately help carry a successful team, or even a team that's near success, very far. We saw that this past year with Tampa Bay, okay? And a few other teams. Look at Houston. I don't think anybody saw Houston doing what they did this year. Even if the league is rigged, there's no way in hell they decide, you know what, CJ Stroud, let's just, as a rookie, let's just, to the tippy top. There's no way in hell the writers were like, let's do that. I don't believe in it. I don't. So, that's something else to take in consideration here when talking about how the preseason, or in this case spring training, sets up for the actual schedule that is to be played out and to be recorded. So for the Rays, they're going to have to play better because unfortunately, they've lost the last 4 games, okay? They won 3 in a row before that, all right? So they started, all right, it's been pretty bad, all right? Now, this last game they lost to the Red Sox earlier today, 3-2 ball game there. Now, I get it. Again, spring training, not as big a deal as the regular season, but you still want to see some success early on. My apologies there, guys. Getting ahead of myself. You still want to see some success, just realistically, because, again, this is what's going to push you guys into the future. All right? This is what's going to happen. Now, to the defense of our beloved Rays, we did lose one of our very best players in an off-the-field issue. For those of you who remember what, I'm not going to go into detail about it. But let's just say he probably won't be playing baseball ever again, okay? And this is a man who was absolutely a stud and young. But yes, Wander Franco, we may very well not see him play baseball here in the MLB ever again due to the issue that he was a part of. I'm not going to go into detail again. If you don't know by now, then it's probably better that you don't know. Okay, so But for our boys, we're going to have to continue to move forward. We're going to have to find some success, whether it be on the front side or the back side of the ball, front side, back side of the pitching plate, front side, back side of the dugout, guys. We're going to have to find some success somewhere. One of the areas that we may be able to find that is with the continuity that this young team has. The team is still young. We're only signing younger players, too, for that matter, and we've been able to draw out a lot of good things from our players over the last few years. If you just look at some of the guys, Fairbanks, Lau, Rosarena, we have some serious talent in the ball club, and we just have to apply it consistently, all right? And also, can't wait to get a Rosarena back on the mound for regular season baseball. That guy is a walking, talking all-star, and I can't wait to see him play ball again. I need to get me a Rosarena jersey, indeed. Now then, the next game for the Rays to be played is going to be against the Twins. That's going to be tomorrow at lunchtime, 1:05, if you're looking for some baseball to watch. I might check it out. I should be home by then after church, so I should be able to check that game out unless it doesn't come on here. If it doesn't come on here, then I will just watch the highlights. But yeah, that's pretty much what to look forward to tomorrow, guys, if you're wanting to watch some Rays baseball. Like I said, spring training, so have a look at this team, see what they have to offer from your point of view, and depending on what your team likes, you may want to pay attention to this team right now and see what they're good at, see what they're not good at, and see if your team can capitalize on it, of course. So, except for you, Boston, just go back to Boston. I had to. It's the Boston Red Sox. It is what it is, though. So anyhow, that's what's going on there for the Rays, guys. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the Bolts real quick and talk about what's going on there in hockey. Now, the Bolts are struggling right now. Okay? And I'm not going to lie to you. They're struggling. So I'll start with the off the ice. Okay? The Bolts did sign 2 new players recently. Center Milo Rollins and center Gabriel, is that Shirk? I can't say his name properly because I could be Polish, I think, maybe Polish, maybe Russian, but not an easy name to pronounce. But the point behind these signings is as simple as it looks, okay? We need some help, okay? We need some help, and that's kind of been obvious since about 2 weeks ago. The Bolts have been playing tremendous hockey for the most part, but we knew that these issues are going to catch up to us, especially with this long postseason run we've had over the last few years. I'm not going to go into detail. I'll talk about it every week. But realistically speaking, our boys are getting tired and they're hurt. Okay, we needed some help, and there's no doubt about it. I'll be the first one to admit that. The Bolts are clinging to a playoff opportunity right now, currently 5th, rocking a 32-24-6 record. By no means a terrible record, but we could be playing so much better, and we should be playing much better. But again, it's expected at this point in time after the type of haul that this team has reeled in over the last 3 years as far as postseason is concerned, and jewelry for that matter. Well, I wouldn't say jewelry, right, but more so tableware, if you get where I'm going with that. 2 Stanley Cup Finals wins and a 3rd appearance last year, fell short. We love you, Bolts. Just keep doing what you're doing, okay? But just get a little more consistent, get a little better. Let's get back to playing solid defense. Let's get back to scoring on power plays and doing the little things right. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. Staying healthy is a hard thing to do, and I understand that. And that's why we went and got some help. But realistically speaking, guys, you have what it takes. We've always had what it takes. I believe in you guys. We know that you're tired. Just keep going, guys. Just keep going. All right? They host the Canadians tonight, 7 p.m. Get ready for that. That puck game starts at 5 minutes, guys. So if you have nothing else to watch tonight, you guys are going to want to check that out. Go look at the Bolts, see how they're doing against the Canadians. This should be a decent game to play. This team is sub 500, rocking a 23-28-9 record. I think that they might be better than their record suggests, but realistically speaking, we don't know it because that last number being a 9 is pretty high. Like, let's just be honest, that 9 could swing things into their favor for all we know, and we don't. The next game after the Canadians game is going to be against the Flames. That's going to be Thursday, March 7th at 7 p.m. If you're going to want to check that game out, do so with, how can I say this? With patience. I think that this team right now is currently reshuffling, some priorities as far as what they're looking for and what they need to get better at. Again, when you've had so much success over the last few years, it becomes very easy to forget kind of how you got that success, right? Like we see it happen all the time in sports. It doesn't really matter what what sport you look at, you're going to see teams who find success and then they have a little dry spell, right? You know, or they have a little area where there's a drought, you know, like they're just unable to perform well. And I feel like the Bolts are currently in one of those areas. 2-2 over the last 4 is unlike them, but still something that's salvageable. So again, they needed some help. You know, and it is what it is. Dad says Lightning need help, need to improve on killing the power. Hurt them recently. Yeah, I mean, power plays are a fundamental part of hockey. Okay, it's essentially no different than going to the free throw line, right? I mean, yes, it's slightly different because you get to control whether you go or you don't go, but it doesn't get more lopsided than power play. Okay, so again, and I mentioned that earlier. You make a great point, Dad. You got to improve on that, and on both sides of it too. Because as hard as it is to defend the power play, it doesn't matter. You still got to defend it. You know, I mean, that's like saying that's like watching an NFL team have 10 players on the field and not play defense. Like, dude, you're just missing a player. Yeah, that could matter, but it could also not matter if you play properly, if you play correctly. These are probably drills that teams should run, both in hockey and in the NFL. Pretty much any game that has such a thing. So, I mean, I think that you make a great point, like I said, and they're going to have to improve on the power play. I mentioned that earlier. We couldn't be more in agreement on that right there, Dad. Now, let's move over to a team who's not struggling. Literally just not struggling at all. Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers currently first, okay, in the Atlantic. I mean, they're just maybe the best team in hockey at the moment, guys. They're rocking a 40-16-4 record. You see that last number? When that last number stays low, it seems like the other number in the front gets bigger. Huh? Or am I just tripping? Anyway, like I said, 40-16-4 record. Best record in the Atlantic. Probably, like I said, the best team in hockey at the moment. They beating the Red Wings 4-0 in the third period right now. The Red Wings Red Wings. Jesus, I'm so sorry. What is this? World War II? Red Wings. All right, are currently rocking a 33-21-6 record. A tremendous record, may I add, and they're getting smashed. All right. Anybody want to throw that into the comment section real quick before the show is over? I'll tell you what the score of that game ended up being, because that game, like I said, was on its way to its ending. And again, 4-0. I just don't see Red coming back from that. I just don't. Not against the Panthers, at least. It's okay, though. It gets harder for them moving forward. They're going to play the Rangers, another one of the best teams here, maybe the second best team in hockey at the moment, rocking a 40-17-3 record. They've been playing tremendous hockey as well. That game is going to be Monday, March 4th, at 7 p.m. Get ready for that game, guys. That's going to be a tremendous game. Could be one of the better games we see all season in hockey. So, like I said, if you're not doing anything on Monday, check that game out. Of course, I will try to check it out, but we don't get the Florida Panthers games consistently on, for those of you who know, I have a Spectrum TV, so unfortunately we don't get every single game, and because we don't get every single game, it's just kind of unfortunate I missed some of them. So that was the final score. Okay, roger that. So there you go, guys. Panthers improving the 41-16-4 record with the 4-0 beating over the Red Wings. Congratulations, Panthers. I don't know how else to say it. They're absolutely phenomenal right now. Okay, like I said, possibly the best team in hockey at the moment. Hey, it is what it is. They're 4-1 in the last 5, with the only loss coming to a decently scheduled team. You expected it to happen at some point in time, but this team has been on an absolute tear over the recent last 20 games. Probably even more than that, to be honest, but I can go back to the last 20 games and say I'm pretty sure that they've won the majority of those games. Like I said, number 1 in the Atlantic will get you there. That's what's going on there in hockey, guys, and that's what's going on there in the world of sports. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio this week. Next week, I can't wait to talk about once we get further into the spring training and we start to play a little bit more serious baseball as this dwindles down. Also, we'll be much further along into the Combine, which I'm currently watching right now. If you are watching right now, they're showing Michael Penix Jr. right now, quarterback from Washington. Yes, he got stomped in that national championship game against a quarterback who's actually also competing here tonight, J.J. McCarthy, guys. These are going to be quarterbacks that all of our teams here in Florida are going to want to pay attention to, including Miami, because Miami may look at drafting somebody behind Tua just so they have that insurance. Tampa Bay, same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay goes out of their way to draft a quarterback at some point in time. There's no guarantee that Kyle Trask will stay in Tampa Bay. His inability to get to the starting lineup, especially when he's had multiple opportunities to do so, has just been unfortunate, to say the least. And by multiple times, I really just mean 2 times, but still, nonetheless, it is what it is, guys. Moving forward, again, this combine is going to be very, very important for a lot of these teams coming out. There's a ton of studs coming out, and as well as free agency. So get ready for a lot of action coming up in this NFL offseason right now, guys. A lot to look forward to. Again, the college football team should be returning to spring practice very soon as well, so get ready for that just in case you're missing college football as much as I am. And then soon the XFL will be kicking off, and we'll be able to watch some non-NFL related football. For those of you who haven't watched, there's actually some good material out there. There's been seeing some good games last year as well. So looking forward to that, guys. There was a UFC fight night. I wasn't really going to talk about it tonight just because it was a fight night and not a very desirable one, I would say. Not saying that it's not good, because the first 2 fights ended by knockout. But hey, if that's your thing, that's your thing. If not, I understand. I'm looking forward more so to UFC 299, which will be right around the corner, guys. So when that gets here, we'll talk about that as well. But again, thank you so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name has been Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hey guys, listen, spend time with your family, love your family, all right. Pray, stay prayed up, please do. This world is crazy. I don't know what you guys do for work, but I drive for work. I see crazy stuff literally every single day, and all I can do is just continue to give it to the man upstairs as he continue to make a way for me, and I hope he's doing the same for you. I pray for happiness and safety and great health for all of you guys. I look forward again to seeing the rest of these teams get ready to open up. Soon we will have pretty much almost every sport here in America that we play on again, and I can't wait for that. There'll be so much to talk about, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say as well. Catch me in the same place, same time, next week, 6 p.m., Palm Tree Sports Radio. Find me on Twitter. I'm always talking about whatever the hot topic is on Twitter. I have an opinion on it, and I'm sure you guys too, and I'd love to hear it. Come reach me there or anywhere else that you find the podcast. Again, it's been a pleasure. Like I said before, guys, just enjoy your free time. Don't waste it. Everything in life we can get back but time and family. Remember that. And I will see you here, same time, same place, next week. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Peace and love.